Good advice can help you, but the wrong advice can ruin your career. And in the DJ world, there are 5 pieces of terrible advice that DJs, young and old, always repeat. And these tips may sound noble and inspiring, but the truth is, the world doesn't view DJs through the same lens you do, because the real world is harsh, unforgiving, and judgmental. How do I know this? Because even as a champion battle DJ who spins on turntables, CDJs, and controllers, and someone who's DJed around the world for over a decade, I've fallen into following these tips and damaging my career. Look, there's a reason why I'm not in Tomorrowland like James Hype, despite my skills and my following. So if you're not aware of these bad tips, you'll keep asking yourself, why don't people dance when I DJ? Why am I not getting booked? And so much more. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 5 worst pieces of advice DJs give out. I'll tell you how they quietly destroy your DJ career and what you should do instead. But before we get started, if you guys want a chance to win this white FLX-4, stick around, because later in this video, I'll show you exactly how you can join this giveaway. But if you already own a DJ controller like the FLX-4, you've got to protect it. The bag I personally use is this DJ controller carrying case. It's sturdy, functional, and best of all, it's only $30. It has multiple compartments so you can fit your laptop, cables, headphones, and even 2 FLX-4s with deck savers. And there's even room to spare for something like a 2TB Kexen SSD, which I bring to every gig. This little SSD connects through USB-C, so loading tracks is super fast. And the incredible part is that the 2TB version is only about $65. So if you want to get any of these items $20 cheaper, you've got to get them from Temu like I did, and use this limited time coupon code. But here's the thing, with Temu, you do not enter the code during checkout. Instead, you enter the code in the search bar inside the app. So once you're in the app, go straight to the search bar at the top and type in this code, KBD3793. Once you search the code, it unlocks a $20 coupon which you must use within 24 hours. Now, another great thing about Temu is that they offer up to a $90 return policy so you can shop with confidence. So all in all, if you want to get these items $20 off, check the links below, enter the code in the search bar, spend over $20 if you're a new user, and enjoy $20 off instantly. Anyway, back to the video. Bad advice number 1. Real DJs use and do XYZ. You see these comments everywhere. Real DJs scratch. Real DJs spit on vinyl. Real DJs use headphones. The thing is, what even is a real DJ? When I started, I simply used what I had and what I could afford. And back then, that meant a cheap DJ controller, earphones, and PC speakers. But did you know that DJing didn't originally start with turntables and a mixer? The forerunners of DJing used whatever they had to mix tracks together, such as tape reels, conventional turntables, etc. For the real pioneers of DJing, it didn't matter what they used. As long as they could make it work and get people dancing, that was all that mattered. And that's exactly what any beginner can do today with no matter what you have. Anyway, these gatekeeping sentiments have been echoed across the decades by those insisting that anything different from tradition is ruining the art of DJing. And you'll hear this from veteran DJs, purists, and a lot of keyboard warriors online. But this begs the question, what is real DJing then? Is it all about beat matching by ear, using vinyl over digital tracks, using rotary mixers over modern mixers, or is it about making people dance and showing them a good time? Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with tradition and keeping the old ways alive in this current sea of technology. Older DJs simply want younger ones to appreciate the way things used to be. However, many veterans insist that the old way is the only way to DJ, and using anything new means you're nothing but a glorified button pusher. As a result, beginners feel pressure to validate themselves before an imaginary concert of purists to be seen as a true DJ, shifting their focus to satisfy other DJs who'd never appreciate their music and the way they mix. But here's the thing. The crowd simply doesn't care what you're using. They won't care if you use turntables or a controller or using a laptop. What the crowd really cares about is not you and your DJ gear. What they care about is much more simple. It's about themselves and whether or not they're having a good time with your music. And this is proven by legends who've rocked amazing parties using the simplest of DJ gear. We've got Laidback Luke, who uses his phone and Reloop Mix Tour to DJ. And we've also got Zed, who's headlined festivals and parties with just a controller. Personally, it's my mission to prove that you can do any technique on beginner DJ gear. And this brings us to the biggest takeaway. The true definition of a real DJ isn't about the medium or equipment. It's about the outcome. If the audience enjoyed your set, then you've done your job as a DJ. Real DJing doesn't have to be defined by your equipment and what techniques you used, but for me, rather the experiences you create. Bad advice number 2. DJ skills are everything. You've seen it on social media. Tons and tons of views and likes go to videos where DJs do insane DJ tricks. From looping like James Hype, and because of that, DJs everywhere now believe that to be successful, they need to master these insane DJ tricks, thinking that the better they get technically, the more successful they'll be. I myself have fallen into believing that, so I practiced non-stop, learned new tricks, and even posted those routines online. But in the end, I wasn't getting any gigs at all, because while I was hyper-focused on getting good, I completely neglected the other skills that actually made DJs successful. Skills like song selection, networking, marketing, and most importantly, producing. There are of course exceptions. You can certainly get gigs through your following on social media and through your viral DJ posts. But true longevity in this industry doesn't come from doing insane DJ tricks, following trends, or staying ahead of the latest looping techniques. It comes from creating experiences. From building something unique, not just in what you do behind the decks, but in how people connect with your music. And that often comes through music production. Take it from me, if being a skilled DJ was indeed the path to success, I would be on Tomorrowland or something by now. But the reality is, I'm not. It's DJs like James Hype and Laidback Luke who are. Because they're not only skilled DJs, but they market themselves well, build strong networks, and most of all, produce chart-topping music. You see, the truth is, to be a successful DJ today, you can't rely on your skills behind the decks to get gigs. Unfortunately, in this day and age, it's what you do behind the scenes that actually builds a career. Before we continue any further, if you guys enjoy these types of videos, let me know by commenting, liking this video, and subscribing to the channel. Because not only will you help YouTube know that this is actually a good video, but you'll also be joining the giveaway. So again, if you want to win this white FLX-4 and keep these tutorials coming, just drop a comment below, like the video, and subscribe. The winner will be contacted by this specific email. Anyway, back to the video. Bad advice number 3. Never DJ for free. Objectively speaking, DJing for free isn't automatically a good thing. In most cases, it lowers your perceived value, drives prices down for other DJs in your area, and worst of all, creates the expectation that a DJ's work doesn't need to be valued or paid for at all. And that absolutely applies to DJs who are already making a living. By DJing for free, you lower everyone's expected income. But for DJs who are just starting out, the reality is different. Breaking in the industry is tough because the DJ market today is simply oversaturated. Everyone has access to DJ software, gear, and tutorials. And because of all this, getting your first real gig is often the biggest challenge. So early on, DJing for free, if you're given the opportunity, can actually serve a purpose not as a career move, but as an entry point. Think of it the same way comedians do. Even famous comedians will drop into comedy clubs to test new jokes. They're not headlining sold-out shows, they're working out material, seeing what lands, what bombs, and how the crowd reacts in real time. So they're not working for free, they're practicing in public. So think of DJing for free early on as the same way. When you're starting out, the goal isn't money yet. It's about gaining experience and getting your foot in the door. DJing for free only works if you do it with intention, like developing your sound, building your brand, proving you can actually move a crowd, getting into the industry, and most of all, building real relationships. Now, when I was starting out, I DJed college parties for free. I knew that exposure and free alcohol wouldn't keep the lights on or pay off my DJ gear debt. But I also knew that the more free parties I played, the better I would become as a DJ. Not just in terms of reading a crowd, because how do you even practice that in your bedroom? But also in terms of meeting people and learning how the industry actually works. So yeah, I bombed a few gigs, I was a smash hit at a few, but most of all, I developed those relationships with the people and the audience. So before long, I started getting recommendations and paid gigs because people talked about how I performed at those parties. And once I established my sound and brand, I stopped DJing for free and used the experience and the content I captured to propel my DJ career forward. Bad advice number 4. Don't take requests. Now this idea may seem controversial because as DJs, we're supposed to be the ones who dictate the night with our music selection. And I know a lot of us take pride in what and when we play things, but things are circumstantial. For example, let's say you're booked and paid to do a wedding, and the bride who paid you requested for her favorite song. And if it doesn't sound right, are you going to be the snobby DJ who says no? Or are you going to be the one who ruins your special day? Well, I certainly hope not. Taking requests when you're booked for private parties, at least for me, is okay. It'll make the client happy and it'll make the audience happy because they aren't really there for you. They're there for the event and possibly their friend or family. And those special people know what songs your loved ones would want to hear. Because honestly speaking, you don't know the context of her request. And plus, she's paying you. So just think of their requests, as dumb as they sound, as guides and use their suggestions to better help you narrow your music selection to better cater to their wants and needs. Now let's say you're booked for a club gig. This is when being a snobby DJ is sorta okay. Since you're booked for that event, the booker wants you to play music that you're known to play. So be you and have fun. But if ever you do get a request, please don't snob it right away. Simply be open to the idea and see if their suggestion will actually help you, no matter how stupid it may sound. At the end of the day, our job isn't to protect our ego. It's to move the crowd. And if the crowd is trying to help you get there, why not at least consider it? Bad advice number 5. Don't use sync. Now this one's spicy, so let me explain both sides first. Now, the DJs who give this advice are actually coming from a good place because they simply want you to learn the fundamentals, to understand timing, phrasing, and rhythm, so you don't end up train wrecking a mix like this. And to be clear, learning how to beat match is absolutely a skill every DJ should learn, in my opinion. Because beat matching trains your ears to recognize tempo differences, forces you to listen instead of just staring at waveforms, and helps you recover when things go wrong. And if sync ever fails, beat matching is your parachute. But here's where this advice goes sideways. Some DJs, especially the loudest and oldest ones online, turn this advice into a moral rule. That if you use sync, you're lazy. That if you rely on technology, you're not a real DJ. And that if you don't struggle, you didn't earn it. And that mindset doesn't create better DJs. It creates gatekeeping. Because let's be honest, in today's DJ setups, we already have screens showing waveforms, BPMs, phase meters, and phrasing guides. So what's the real difference between visually beat matching and just pressing the sync button? Using sync literally just skips one step. Matching BPMs and aligning beats. That's it. Using sync can actually free you up to focus on more important things as a DJ, like reading the crowd better, choosing the best next song, or doing creative transitions and DJ tricks. And this is where the advice becomes hypocritical. Why is using sync considered a sin, but using a laptop to DJ isn't anymore? And if using sync is supposedly cheating, then why isn't using stems treated the same way? Because stems, factually speaking, are powered by AI. Yet there's any backlash against them. So what's really going on here? Because both sync and stems do the same thing at a high level. They offload technical work so that the DJ can focus on creative decisions. One just handles tempo alignment and the other separates musical elements. So the difference here isn't ethics, it's nostalgia. So for me, if you want to use sync, go right ahead. Treat it like any other tool on DJ gear. It's there for you to use, not to define you. And you don't need to use it. You're not required to avoid it. And choosing to use it doesn't make you any less of a DJ. What matters isn't whether you're pressing the sync button, it's whether you understand what's happening when you do. Because real skill isn't about refusing tools. It's about knowing when to use them and when you don't need to. And if you've put in the work to learn the fundamentals, then yeah, use sync. For me, it's fine. But then again, actions speak louder than words. Plenty of legendary pro DJs use sync and remain far more skilled than the keyboard warriors debating it online. We're talking about DJs like A-Track, who literally pushed Serato to include the sync function. Laid Back Luke, a huge advocate for pushing DJ technology forward. DJ Craze, possibly the GOAT of turntablism. James Hype, one of the most technically aggressive DJs on the planet, and so much more. These DJs have already proven themselves, and if anything goes wrong, you can be absolutely sure that they can beat match manually to save the mix. And if you guys want to learn how to beat match and DJ like a pro, you can check out my video over here on how to master beat matching fast, or even better, get my DJ course through the links below. Use the code BOOMER for an extra big discount.